Okay, so Children of the Whales has returned with episode 2, and I gotta say, episode 2, ooh, that cliffhanger. That cliffhanger. Okay, so with episode 2 of Children of the Whales, it leaves us with a lot of questions. More questions than we probably already had. We do learn a little bit more about the world, but at the end of the day, we still have a lot of questions as to what exactly is going on within the world of Children of the Whales. And we also kind of figure out a little bit more of Lycos as a character as well, and come to find out that Lycos isn't exactly Lycos' name. So let me explain why, okay? So when we see Oni, Lycos, and also Chokoro arrive at the home in which Lycos was residing in which she buried her family and her friends and stuff like that, apparently we stumble upon these creatures known as No, or Nose, I believe they are pronounced that way, and basically the other name for them is called Lycos, and basically these things feed on emotions. These things are like blobs. They're like blobs in which they feed on the emotions of other people. And they have quite a bit of history as well, but we don't really know too much about them than what we have seen in this episode. But Lycos, I'm just using her name as Lycos here because that's the only name we actually know of, you know, this character as, but apparently Lycos isn't exactly her real name. But again, just for the sake of this review, I'm still gonna call her Lycos. But apparently we come to find out that Lycos states to Chokoro and also Oni that the emotions are said to ruin the world. Emotions are said to be the burden of humanity, and it holds them back. And we actually learn from Lycos' past as well that apparently at the age of 7, she was enrolled in by her parents to a military academy. At the age of 7. So when it comes down to the connections between these creatures and also Lycos and the people, you know, who resided with Lycos before their deaths, obviously, it seems as though they were probably using this creature in order to consume their emotions so that way they can become emotionless and therefore stronger, you know, soldiers. Now, of course, this is where the mud whale comes in. As we know, the mud whale is basically an island in which there are inhabitants, a very small, you know, amount of inhabitants on the mud whale. But regardless, this is an island in which we have characters who actually have emotions. So comparing these, you know, people to the people on the outside world who are emotionless, apparently there is a war that has gone on between the emotional and the emotionless, and this is something that the higher council on the mud whale has been keeping from the people on, you know, the mud whale, from discovering what exactly is going on in the outside world. So there is quite a lot of history that we still need to learn as when it comes down to the overall world within Children of the Whales, and figure out why exactly the emotional and the emotionless are waging war with each other. Why exactly did this start out in the first place? Why did they separate? And why exactly, you know, the higher council is keeping these things from the people, you know, on the mud whale as well. It seems as though when it comes down to the higher councils, these are individuals that did not, you know, resonate with the ideology that the emotionless had, and therefore that is why they separated themselves. But in turn, to me guessing, I guess this is how the war ended up starting between the emotional and the emotionless. But now the question arises is that, are there more individuals out there who carry emotions just like the people within on the mud whale? Are they hiding out in some other, you know, island, you know, out in the sand or something like that? You know, what exactly is going on? Like, I just want to learn more about, you know, what exactly is going on with the world. But again, we're only getting little tidbits of information, you know, when it comes down to Children of the Whales. I mean, I believe this series is listed for like 20 plus episodes, you know, so we're only on episode 2, so obviously we're not going to get everything, you know, on the get-go. get-go, and I don't want to get everything on the get-go, because it's better to just kind of speculate and theorize as to what exactly the series will come to be about later down the line. So yeah, but in terms of the information that we got within this episode, it was definitely very, very, very interesting. And also in terms of Lycos as a character, while, you know, we saw in the previous episode of her, you know, completely devoid of emotion, we actually see in this episode that it does seem as though there are still some emotions lingering inside her. I mean, we see her kind of like worry about what is going on the mud whale in, you know, throughout this episode, and also at the very end of the episode where we see the locust swarm scene, which was a beautiful scene, by the way. That was amazing animation. That deserves 10 out of 10 material right there. But anyways, when it comes down to that scene with Lycos, we actually get to see her cry. So this does in fact show that she does still have some human-like emotions residing within her. Now, in terms of what happened at the end of this episode of Children of the Whales, this is where stuff got like, woo! It went from 0 to 100 right quick. Now, we see that apparently these emotionless soldiers pop up at the mud whale and completely open up on fire on Chakuro and Sumi, I believe her name was. Correct me if I'm wrong, the blonde hair girl. Basically, they open up fire on pretty much everyone within, you know, that area where they were farming at. So when it comes down to the blonde hair girl, judging by how this, you know, episode kind of played out, I'm imagining that she is most likely going to die off here, which is pretty tragic. It is pretty tragic indeed. But you never know. She could end up surviving. Who knows? But, I mean, she took the blow for Chakuro. And, I mean, the people were, like, right out in front of her. She was right here. And then the whole ship lit up on fire right down upon that. So, I don't know what's going to happen to Chakuro as well. But in terms of, you know, the blonde-haired girl, Sumi, I believe her name is, she is most likely probably going to die. And not only that, but probably the majority of the people on the mud whale as well. And the thing is, the council could have prevented this. The headmasters, you know, at, you know, the mud whale who, you know, control the political side of things, they could have prevented this if they went to go see Lycos, or at least adhere to Lycos's, you know, plea to actually go see them. If they would have talked it out with Lycos, they would have seen this coming. But no. Nope. And I'm assuming the reason as to why exactly the Emotionless found out the location of this is because simply that Lycos is, you know, within on the island. There, you know, when it comes down to the war, there must have been some type of, like, treaty that the Emotionless and the Emotional signed in which they would, you know, not have anything to do with one another and completely separate from each other and, you know, basically getting out of each other's lives and not coming into contact with each other whatsoever. And I guess maybe the people on the mud whale, the political side of things, they, you know, kind of, you know, broke that, you know, treaty that they once signed because of the fact they took Lycos, which is known as an emotionless person, onto the mud whale, and this in turn, you know, broke the law, so to speak, so that way, you know, they are now sinners against the treaty, which is what this, you know, episode is called, The Sinners of Falana, which I guess Falana is another name for the mud whale. So you know what, it's just quite an interesting thing to think about when it comes down to what we got in this episode, knowing that there has been a war that has waged out between the emotional and emotionless. They completely separated from each other. Most likely they came under some sort of treaty into which, you know, they would have no communication or interaction with each other for the rest of their lives, but because of the fact that Lycos, an emotionless was brought on the mud whale, this most likely broke the treaty that they once signed, and therefore this is the consequence of that. The emotionless now have the right to kill off everyone residing on the mud whale. And not to mention, most of the people on the mud whale are innocent. So the political faction has been keeping things from these people for a very, very long time. And also another interesting thing to point out is that the chieftains of the mud whale, they are, I believe it was stated that they do not know anything regarding the political side of things until they reach the age of 61. But if anything, when it comes down to the chieftains, they are just to, you know, be a role model. They have a role as a role model on the mud whale amongst the other citizens. When it comes down to the headmasters and the head council and whatnot, those are the people that handle the political side of things. But the chieftains don't learn anything until the age of 61. So there has been a lot of information that we got out in this episode of Children of the Whales. A lot of questions have popped out, and we did get quite a few answers, but again, we got a lot more questions than answers. But honestly, so far, Children of the Whales is posing to be one of the most entertaining shows of the fall 2017 season. Like, I'm actually really enjoying this show and very curious as to how it's going to turn about later down the line. So yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. What did you guys think about my speculations as well as this review? What did you think about the episode? Let me know down in the comment section down below. Be sure to give this video a like if you enjoyed it. Hit that red subscribe button down below if you want to see more. And consider, you know, going to the description in my video and checking out my social media links. With that said, everyone, peace out.